goal with this is to, in 2 or 3 classes, follow me whether I'm there or a video in this case, of how to put together the simplest possible template idea of what we're going to be doing for your IA. So get into Netbeans. If you had trouble getting it going, perhaps you could take a few minutes right now and help each other to see if you can get it going. If not, you'll have to get in touch with me and we'll Zoom or something. So in Netbeans, new project. Not Ant, but Maven. Java application. I'm going to call it simplest IA. You know, it's simplest, but it'll have everything that we need. Source packages. Give myself lots of room. And in terms of the way yours is going to look right here, let's just assume you can see this. You should. Well, you know, let's do this right now. Go to configure Windows. No, reset Windows. Yeah, just reset Windows. It should take everybody to this look. So over on the left, I've gotten into this simplest IA by clicking on the little disclosure wedge, and then into source packages. If you have anything else open over here in the editing window, you'll probably want to close it. And I think you're going to want to, like I'm going to want to, give ourselves some bigger coding fonts. So control click, new. You're going to go other. Next time application sample form will come up for you, but the first time it won't. You'll have to go looking for it. So I right clicked on the little gray package that looks like a package. Control clicked on it and I went new down to other. And in other, you look in the swing GUI forms category for application sample form. And you know, Mr. Hines can pause this at any time when he thinks he should for you or you need him to, so just let him know. And you can just look at it again, but there you go. Application sample form. And I'll call this main GUI, which stands for graphical user interface. And what we're going to do is like student database, student DB, main GUI student DB, finish. I'm going to give myself a bit more room. And now I'm going to go to source just to see if the font's appropriately sized. Could be a bit bigger. Let me just see if I can quickly do this. If I can't, then it shouldn't be that hard. Fonts and color. Yeah, okay. Fonts and color. And 13's, both for me and this video and for you working with it, 13's probably too small. I'm going to go to 16. That's about right. Okay, this was in Netbeans preferences, fonts and colors. I clicked on the little 3 dots here and changed the font size to 16. Apply or OK, just go OK, it should be fine. That's fine. So now let's go back to design. And I'll toggle back and forth just to show you that we can be in design where we'll drag in our graphical user interface elements and organize them, or source where we'll code. So in the design, make this about as big as you can make it. It was a bit too big, but that's okay. have more than one tab. So let's do the tabs first. All these things over here are the different graphical user interface things you can easily add to this application. And we're going to want to have a tabbed pane, which will have to be a lot bigger than that. And at least a couple of panels. I'll put in 3. Now, you might want to watch this a couple of times, but make sure you're dragging these and dropping them at the appropriate time. The first one's going to be pretty easy. You see the little orange marquee there? That's good. But the second time I drag it in, just make sure, well, I just did it. Let me just do it again. That you're dragging and you're releasing when you get that dotted marquee. Otherwise, you might end up with a tab within a tab within a tab. Let's just make sure that it's working by moving in different things. On tab 1, I'll move in, I don't know, a toggle button. Tab 2, is it different? Yeah, I'll move in anything. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we're good. I'm going to undo so that my tabs both don't have anything. Again, you know, even this first stage, sometimes people will certainly, the first time through, make an error. So you're welcome to pause the video, rewind, do it all again, but hopefully you're okay. You got these 3 tabs. Let's not work on tab 2 or tab 3. Well, why don't we, oh, you got to be careful with that too. How about everybody try that one? If you double click on one of the tabs, then you get into editing only it. If that happens, you need to go over here, go back to the frame. Let's do that again. There'll be a lot of little things like this, and you'll have to help each other. But so just if by accident you double click on something, it'll isolate that and just show you that. We want to go back to ultimately double click the frame. Now, if all I intended was to, happen to me again, if all I intended was to change the names of the tabs, then control click is the better way to do it. So let's do that. Let's call these, let me see, this tab, enter data, view data, sort and search. Okay, so don't double click, although a slow double click will work, but control click and edit text. So we'll call this enter data. And I'm going to press the enter key. I'm going to right click, or just left click to begin with, control click or right click on tab 2. Looks like it takes a couple. There we go. And I'll call this display data. Might as well stick with data. Enter. Control click. Takes a few taps. Sort and search, which will be in another video. Sort and search. So now I got our 3. None of them have anything yet. So let's start with enter data. What you're going to want to do is check out lots of past IAs. And the sooner you do this, honestly, the better. But let's just do a little quick peek. IAs at the bottom. Past year's IAs. And you'll see, as you go through any of them, these are in no particular order, I don't think. B, C are his last names, so they're alphabetical. Yeah. So you'll find a video in each of them, and you'll be able to see the number of GUI elements.
I'm Laura, and I'll be going through my computer science IA.
So, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are a dozen different GUI elements on this particular tab. We're only going to put a couple. But really, I encourage you as soon as you can to look through a bunch of different IAs so that once you see this general process of putting a Netbeans GUI project together, then you'll have a much better idea of what you're capable of, I guess is the way of putting it. So very, 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 very simply, what do we want? We want to maybe have a student name and a maybe student number, an ID number. How about that? Okay, so 2 labels. Move it over. You're going to control click on it. Again, it's taking 3 times and edit the text to be student name, colon, and do make sure to remember to press enter. Maybe line it up, control click, and call it student ID number. So one after another, we'll enter in student names and student ID numbers, or the user will, right? The user will enter. So when users are entering stuff, they will often use text fields. So now we move down to text fields. I'm going to move both of them out for now. And yeah, let's change the text even now. So when you go delete, the text field is going to snap to be just a character wide. It's hard to see it. If I go enter now, yeah, you see. So that's fine. Just when you do it, drag it back to be a much bigger width. Delete, enter. I lined them up. And then we'll have the user OK each time and clear the text fields so they can enter in more students and more ID numbers. So for this, we'll need a button. And this is the limit. This is it. This is all we're going to do in terms of GUI elements, graphical user interface elements, on this particular tab for this particular introductory video. Same thing here, control click. And the other thing that, of course, is going to happen, if you double click this, it probably happened to you already. Should have shown you this earlier. If you double click on one of these the wrong way, see if I can do it. Yeah, it takes you back here. So anytime you go back here, don't worry about all that. Just go back to design. So control, and we'll just say OK. I just had an idea that I should do a, top 3 or 4 glitches you'll encounter and show you them first, so when they happen, and get Mr. Hines to show you that first, actually. So you will have seen by the time you're watching this video those glitches, and yeah, it's a good idea. Just so you know, when you do something like you double click by accident and you get this, then you're not going to panic. Design. Now the next thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to name these things that will be worked with in the code. That will be worked with in the code, and that will be, and that will be. These labels, nah, they're just labels. But these, somewhere along the line, we're going to be working with that text field. Right now it's called JTextField1. And we should give it something more appropriate than that. Control click over here is where I tend to do this. I don't know why, but maybe I do know why. So, and we could have added to the text here too, but anyway, this way you get to see both. What do we want to do? We want to change variable name. Change variable name. This will be student name TF. TF for text field, to be consistent. That's what a lot of people do. Same thing here, control click over in the actual, and if you're missing this, again, just go to Window, reset Windows, and you'll get it. Control click, change variable name. This is student ID number. I'm just going to say ID number, TF. I'm going to try to remember these variable names as I go. Student name TF, ID number TF, okay. And this also makes sense to name now. You'll see why. Well, I mean, JButton1, when we see that in code, what's that mean? What if we have 3 or 4 buttons? So, control click. And we'll call it enter button. Or how about enter data button? All right. So now we're ready to see what, let's take a look at what this looks like. To see what it looks like when we run this application, click on source, which again looks a little scary. By the way, this will get opened up for probably almost all of you at some point. We don't need to see all of this stuff. So I'm going to collapse with a little minus sign, all that stuff. We don't need that. Anyway, you need to get back here. You don't need to, but this is the best way to run from Netbeans rather than using any other way. So we're back into source. Not in design, we're in source. I'm going to control click and run file. Maybe we need to compile first. We go run, clean and build. Well, I mean, I guess since this is new for me, there's a bunch of stuff to have downloaded, and you might have the same thing, so I'll just leave this in the video as being, you shouldn't get that every time you build it. So now when I run this, probably I can go straight forward and run now. Control click. No, not yet. Select main class. Okay, so that's slightly different than I'm used to. I think for some of you, you may be able to go directly to what I tried, but I better do that again. With this version of Netbeans, what did I do? I had to go run project, and then I had to pick. I just had to go OK with whatever came up. From this point on, though, you should be able to just go Control. No, isn't that funny? Well, I think in your version you'll be able to just go Control click, and it looks like in mine I'm not going to be able to. So this is new, the 12.2 for me on this M1 machine. So anyway, I'm going to have to do this. And we see what it looks like. They can type in stuff here. They can go OK. They can switch between tabs. This is what we've got at this point. So, yeah, back to design. What's going to happen is they're going to type in a name and an ID number, and when we go OK, it's going to make a new student, basically. And here's where, I guess, the way I had this in mind was to separate these out into two different videos. So, yeah, let's just end this at this point. You know what we can do at this point is just to test it to see that it's working. Let's just say on the OK that we're just going to print it out, okay? So just one last little thing, which isn't, none of this stuff is little, and this will probably take the whole class just to get to this point, to get everything working. But Control click on this. Again, it's taking 3 taps for me. And this time, go Event, or Events, and down to Mouse, and carefully over to the right as it flies off to Mouse Released. That means when the event happens, that the user, as with the mouse, clicked on the OK button. Upon the release of the click, it should take us, there's the blinking cursor, takes us to this method. Okay, it's at the beginning of a line, which is a comment, so let's go to the end of it, go Enter, and let's just sout. Want to sout? Is there anything else we could do? Let's just sout for now to test. Sout. And what we're going to sout is the name of the text field, student. Here you just have to remember. Name TF turns green, means we spelled it correctly. You can always go back to the design well, let me just show you. You can always go back to the design if you need to remind yourself. So all I want to do is sout what this gives us, and save this for another video, but just for now, I'll just go straight to it. We want to get text. Okay. So I want to go Control click run, but I can't. Run. And now, whatever I've typed here, when I go OK, if it's working, it should get this and display it down here as a sout. And it does. So that's a good ending point, I think, for what'll end up being video number 2, because I want to show you all those top 3 glitches maybe first before we even start any of this. So I'll end this.